Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I would take some time and explain to you some things that surprised me the most about living life here in Thailand as an expat. The first thing that comes to mind is the slower pace of life here in Thailand, which by the way is awesome. It's a lot slower pace than it is in the United States where I'm originally from. However, I guess that would depend on what part of Thailand you're living in, Bangkok being a bigger city. Never lived there, so not exactly sure what it's like there. But that was one of the things that I had to get used to once I moved here to Thailand, is that everything's more relaxed. Now, if you're wondering, does that mean everybody is late to appointments and people don't do anything? No, that is not what I'm saying. As a matter of fact, when we have Thais coming over to our house to do something or an appointment, seems like they're mostly early, if anything, but I don't have too many people that are late for any appointments. Another thing that shocked me about living here in Thailand, I've been here like for almost 4 years now, is just how awesome the street food culture is. Really didn't have it in the area of South Carolina that I am from in the United States. Here, it's just an integral part of everyday life, and the food is so good at these places, and you just get used to it. So when I go back to the United States, I miss these street vendors and things like that. And of course, the price is always amazing. Next to nothing for some of the best Thai food you will ever eat. I was also surprised here in Thailand on how good the overall health care was. When we originally moved here, we figured we would take a hit in health care, meaning we were a bit apprehensive, dental, doctor's visits, what if something major happened? But boy, were we pleasantly surprised. Not that we've been sick and been in the hospital a whole lot, but we know a lot of people that have been and visited them in the hospital, and we have gone to the doctor's office for our normal regular checkups and things like that. And we have just been dumbfounded at how awesome it is and affordable. And it didn't take us forever to get, let's say, you want to go to a dermatologist once a year, you call up in the US and it takes forever. Here, you can call and be in 2 or 3 days, or maybe even the next day or the same day, just depending. And the healthcare system isn't as complex and difficult to navigate as it is in the United States, which is a wonderful shock and something that you will get so used to here. So if you're somebody who constantly has to go to the medical facilities, in the US that can be cumbersome, but if you can wing it over here, you're gonna have a much more pleasurable experience when it comes to medical facilities. Another interesting thing that surprised me that I would even get used to is living with critters in your house. And what I mean is, I don't care how hard you try in Thailand, you're gonna have lizards in your house. I don't know how they get in. I have looked all over our house to figure out how lizards get in everywhere and poop all over everything. But after a while, you just get used to it. Strangely enough, we don't even notice the lizards that much. As a matter of fact, this morning, we had a lizard trapped in our kitchen sink that I had to remove because it couldn't get out and throw him outside. But you get used to living with some of these critters. Now, the first place we lived in here in Thailand, we had things like scorpions that were right outside of our door all the time. But you get used to these things. At first, freaked me out. But I am surprised that I'm getting used to these kind of things. Another thing worth mentioning is the 7-Eleven culture here. Now, in the United States, if I wanted a drink or some gas, you go to the gas station, get some snacks or whatever, not a big deal. And there's some really good ones in the United States where I'm from. But something about the 7-Elevens here, I don't know what it is. They seem to have everything you need. I love going into them every time. They don't have much competition here in Thailand, but it's more than a convenience store here in Thailand, which shocks me. And I know whenever I'm out of the country somewhere else, it's one of the first things I'm missing from Thailand is the 7-Eleven experience. Sounds weird, you gotta experience it for yourself. Now, another thing that was surprising is the times I've visited Thailand before I moved here, I thought everything was negotiable. You'll always be negotiating over everything, but that is not necessarily the case. If you see things clearly marked, that's what the price is. There is no negotiating. So that did surprise me. If things don't have a price on them. I just don't even bother. I don't like negotiating. And you don't really see that in your day-to-day life. Now, the tourist areas, that's a whole different animal. But what I'm talking about is if you're living here day-to-day life, you're going to do a lot less negotiating than you originally might think. And that was surprising to me. Another surprising thing here in Thailand is the coffee culture. I didn't drink coffee when I first moved here. For the first 3 years, I just started drinking coffee, actually. So I've been going to coffee shops here, and I realized how incredibly big the coffee industry is here. And if you don't know this, Thailand grows some of the best coffee in the world, especially up here up north where I'm at in the Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai area. So the coffee culture was a big shock. So if you're a big time coffee drinker, you're gonna love it here. Another thing that was surprising to me at first, and might be surprising to anyone who ever visits Thailand, is when you see a family of 5 on one motorcycle. Happens all the time. Once you've been here a while, it doesn't even faze you anymore. Little kids, babies even, with no helmets on, the kids, just no helmets whatsoever, riding around on a motorcycle, and everyone doesn't think a thing about it. So, and then they wear masks to prevent getting, I don't know, a disease, but no helmet. So these things shocked me at first, but it's something that after you've been here a while, you start to forget about. Another thing that I found at first a little bit surprising was when you order food in a Thai restaurant and you say, not spicy, whether you're saying it in Thai or you're saying it in English, it's still somewhat spicy. So to them, non-spicy is just a little less spicy. To somebody who is very sensitive to heat in food, you're gonna have somewhat of a difficult time, but you'll get used to it after a while. I do like spicy food. When I first got here, I would order things a little less spicy because I was afraid of what Thai spicy would be like. However, you do get used to it. It's one of those things that may take you a couple years, but just know the shocking part of this one is just because you say not spicy, don't be surprised if it's still spicy. Now, one surprise you may have is if you eat with a bunch of Thai people, let's say at a restaurant, most of the time, they're just going to order a bunch of food to be delivered to the table, and then everyone shares it. Versus, you're looking at a menu, you pick out a certain item that you want, and that's what you're going to eat. First time this happened to me, I forgot exactly where I was at, but I ordered something I wanted and got to the table along with a bunch of other food that everyone else ordered, and then everybody started grabbing everything else, and even the food that I ordered, which I'm like, hey, thinking that's what I ordered for me. So don't let that surprise you. So a lot of times it's kind of like, everybody orders whatever and then everybody shares it, which is cool. And it's a good way to try a bunch of different foods that you haven't had before or never even heard of. Now, another thing that took a little getting used to is wildlife, just being there. For one instance, I was in Hua Hin, and I'd never seen a wild elephant, and sure enough, we had a wild elephant that was blocking the highway and scared our driver half to death, who was Thai. So that was an experience. I've seen a cobra crossing the street while I was on a motorcycle and stopped because the car in front of me stopped, and I didn't know what for. It was because there was a cobra crossing the street that decided to come towards my way. I thought I was going to have to ditch my motorcycle. Not to mention, as I had before, scorpions that we have encountered. Usually I was deathly afraid of them. Now I've grown to like them. I've even held a scorpion since I've been here. I've also been blown away since I've lived here in Thailand on how good their internet and computers and everything else in that nature is here. I mean, it's Asia. I should have known better. They love their internet. They love computers. They love technology. So if you're somebody worried about being here as a digital nomad, is the infrastructure going to be good enough for you to work here? Oh man, you're going to love it here. And the cost for internet and everything else is a lot less than what you're probably used to. Now, on some negative notes, another thing that was kind of a surprise here in Thailand are the cost of, say, some imports like wine, for instance. For those of you who do like wine, wine here in Thailand is fairly expensive. Reason being, they don't really do a whole lot of wine here in Thailand, so a lot of the wine in Thailand, of course, is imported, and they must tax it to death because it is very expensive for wine. So if you're somebody who likes wine a lot, You're gonna have to pay a lot for it here in Thailand, so don't let that surprise you. And other things like breads and cheeses, I mean, they have it here. It's just not that common, and it costs a little bit more than you may think versus other groceries. So just keep that in mind. Just a rule of thumb, any imports from other countries, obviously when it comes to the food department, you're gonna have to pay more for it. Makes sense. I think I was also surprised here in Thailand by the smoky season. I'm like, how bad could that really be? And I have a lot of people who message me all the time on the smoky season. What if you have asthma? What if you have respiratory problems? It is that bad, just to warn you. And again, if you're not familiar with when that is, it's usually the latter part of February, all of March, and most of April is going to be the worst times of the year for the smoke. So anyway, I hope this helps you make your decision whether you would like to move to Thailand, give you a little bit more insight from somebody who lives here. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. We'd love to have you subscribe, so please join the Narrowgate family. We'd love to have you. And if you feel so inclined, buy us a coffee. We'd appreciate that too. So thank you very much. And I'm going to end this by saying thank you in Thai, which is Kap Kum Kap.